मेरा नाम है सतवंत कौर धामून. I was born as Sukhi, and I am a practicing obstetrician gynecologist. I practice in New York. Now I live in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey.
And just to give us a little context before the partition, where and when were you born?
I was born in Jamshedpur, which is in Bihar. The other name for that place is Tata Nagar, where the famous Tata and Iron and Steel Company is located, because my dad used to work for the Tatas at that time, and we had our own private house. The first house ever built, private house in Jamshedpur, that was my father's. I was born there, and it's a very cosmopolitan place, so I had a very good exposure to all different kinds of people, the Bengalis, the Hindus, and we had our gurdwaras there. Later on, when war came, the World War II came, and all the families had to be evacuated because Tata Company was the famous place that they would like to bombard the Japanese. So we had to leave and go to Amritsar, where my mother, she bought a house for us, and that was a very near Golden Temple. So we lived there, and even my cousins and all those who wanted to study, they used to come and live with us.
What was it like growing up?
Growing up at the most beautiful part of that is beautiful part of my life, and in my family, the girls were loved and treated like VIPs, as my brothers would say. So my father, he loved his daughters, and those days there wasn't much of family planning, so we were 6 sisters and 4 brothers. We were 5, but we lost one, and we were really treated like princesses, and we got the highest education. Out of 6 sisters, 4 of us are medical doctors, and 2 they did masters in education. Of course, my brothers are also brilliant engineers. Banaras Hindu University was a very famous university where my eldest brother studied. My second brother, he did MSc, MTech, first class in that. And if you know Kharagpur, that's where he did his MS MTech, and he designed an aeroplane or something like that, which is still in the museum. And my youngest brother, he studied in Chandigarh engineering again, and he's now they're well settled in Jamshedpur. They have their own industries, own factories, and my eldest brother has retired. The second brother is not feeling well, so the third one, he started a school for the poor people, and the youngest one is very much active in his business. So they're well settled, very well known. My second brother, he actually started an association for the small scale industry people, because they have problems, so they could work on that.
Growing up, did you feel any sort of friction in the community between Sikhs, Muslims, Hindus?
Not in Jamshedpur, not at all, because my father was very well known as a very very holy man, and people used to come to meet him. That included Sikhs, Hindus, Muslims, Gujaratis, Maharashtrians, and everybody would come and discuss their problems with my father. He was like the ombudsman, and so much so that he was an engineer and a self-made man. And in those days, there was a system. They would accept somebody as their senior. So I'm forgetting the word. So they have a ritual, and they will say, Mr. A wants to accept my father as his teacher or whatever you may call, so that he can come and discuss any of his problems. So then they will bring a gift and all, and people will be there, and then my father accept him as his follower or whatever. And before even my father's car would come in the evening, those people will be there, 5, 10 people sitting, waiting to talk to my father. Any issue, any problems. And some of the people who worked in Tata company, if they were drinking, and their wives will come and complain to my husband, my father, excuse me, and what he will do is because he was not giving money to the families, he would get their paychecks cashed and give it to their wives. And if he hears that somebody is ill-treating his wife, he will go and visit their house and tell the man, this is not right. You cannot hit your wife. So anything that anybody needed, he was there for them, for the people. So, and my mother was also the same way, like a social worker. And actually in the later life, she forgot us and she was all for the people. Because we had farmland near outskirts of Jamshedpur, and they were all the Adivasis. Adivasis mean the original people. And they are very illiterate. They do their ordinary work, cleaning, this, that. And any of their problems, they will come to my mother and she will solve them. And my mother was more close to them than to us. We will be waiting to see mother, and she is busy there helping those people with their problems. So I'm proud of my mother and my father. I've yet to see any family like that. When my father died, there were hundreds of people waiting in the bicycles to take, and we were here, me and my husband. So they told us that by 3 o'clock this day we have to be here. We can't wait anymore, because his body was kept in the house with slabs of iron. And we reached just in time. And when I saw him, he had no rigor mortis, and his face was pink as though he was just sleeping. So I said, Pitaji, I have come. I felt that as though he knows I am there. And he wanted to go to Patna Sahib, but somehow he couldn't. So what happened? This was the time when 84 time, lots of problems on the airports, and in Delhi there were crowds and crowds, asking for their seats and this and that. And me and my husband said, I hope we can get this place. We went and told the guy, he said, just write down why you are here. So I said, we are on our way for my father's funeral. We got the seat right away. And the plane was to go via Patna. At Patna Sahib, a Sardarji entered our plane. We started talking to Rajinderji, from where are you going with that. He told what was our purpose. So he took out a kada and I think a kanga, and he said, we will put it on your father-in-law. I was stunned. Okay. So when we went at the funeral, I said, put it now. And he had no rigor mortis. So there's no problem. And my father used to get jobs to anybody from Punjab. They will hear my father's name. They will come to the station. They want to go to Butta Singh. And everybody knew Butta Singh's house. They come and see him in the evening. In the morning, the guy has a job. So those days were such. And he trained them because he was a master mechanic and mechanical engineer. He was a genius. And for some reason, he had to leave that company, and then he went to another company. I don't know whether you people know about Baldev Singh. He was the minister in the first cabinet in the Free India, and they were friends. And his father, Indra Singh, had 2 factories. So actually, my father had to leave Tata because there was a strike, and in the strike, people come in processions, and they wanted to just do anything to catch any officer and humiliate him. So some people came ahead of the procession and came to my father, said, you better leave the place. He said, but I have not done anything. He says, these people, they are crazy. They won't know at this time. They pushed him into his car and asked him to go. So his senior was a Punjabi guy, Hindu Punjabi, and Bajnath. He was always sort of jealous. So he hid himself in the toilet and saved his life. So he complained to the administration that he organized this whole thing. My father organized. So they made him sit out for 3 months. Then they offered him a pay which was half of what he was getting, and we were going into higher studies in colleges and all that. So he said, no, I can't. So then the Indra Singh, the father of Baldev Singh, he went to Indra Singh and said, this is what they are doing. He said, don't worry, I take you. How much you want? And my father was so simple. He calculated his expenses. He said, this much is enough for me. So then he went to, we were given a house by the company. We moved from our private house, and that house near their factories. And there he became the general master mechanic. Means any problems, they have to ask him, and he was, of course, he was a genius, and he designed some machines, which this time last year I went home and I went to see what my father and they had done. And those machines, the people there said, from the time they have been installed, they have never been repaired. And when the Tata company, to replace him, they had to hire 3 engineers, and still they would have problems, and they would asked my father, and he was such a gentleman, he would tell them what to do. Finally, he asked the Indra Singh, the Sardar Bahadur Indra Singh, the owner of the factory where my father was working, said, can I help them when they need anything? He said, no, you won't help them. Because, they're in competition with each other. But I want to tell one instance in my father's life. In Tata Company is a huge, huge company. It's like a village in itself. That is, the Tata was a Parsi guy, and he, over 100 years ago, he wanted to start a steel factory. So he toured the whole of India, and he found that that was the only a part of India where there was so much of raw material available. There were mines of coal and iron and copper. So he bought all that land, and they needed water also. So Jamshedpur or Tata Nagar is between two rivers, so they can get water from there, and the city grew up between those two rivers. So now they are occupying more place outside. So from there, when my father became this engineer in Tatas, they have the steel, they get the raw steel and melt it, and when the melted steel is like a red river, and that because they are a Tata Iron and Steel Company, so they supply steel globally. And what happened, there is a pinion which works the whole factory, that part of the factory. It is called helical pinion. That broke, and the war is going on, and that can only be sent from California to that factory. Would take 2 years, because they have to first make it and go around the Cape of Good Hope, Japan, and then to Jamshedpur. So people, those who are working there in Tata, the top engineers, the cream of India. So about 80, 100 top people. So it's a very prestigious company. The director of the company, they are mostly Parsis. He had a meeting of all the top people, and he posed this question that it's going to be a big loss to the company, and if there's anybody, any one of you who can make that part here. Everybody said not possible. Then my father got up. He said, yes, I can do it. And everybody is laughing and saying, he hasn't even gone to a school and he wants this. He says he can do it. Say, okay, how much time? He says 6 months. But you give me a qualified engineer. I didn't tell you that my father had never gone to a school. He finished the job 2 weeks ahead of time, and that helical pinion is still working. And he was to get, they wanted to give him 10,000 rupees, was a big sum at that time as a prize. The people said, no, 3,000 will do. So my father said, some people said, why didn't you talk to them? He said, no, prize is a prize. It's okay. It's all right. Actually, my father had started the labor union there, and he also wrote the for the protection of the people who work there. All the rules and regulations, and his because he started the labor union, his name is in the archives of the Tata Company, and he was a farmer's son. When he was born, somebody told my grandfather, "He's unlucky for you," and to his mother said, "When this child of yours comes to your waist, you are going to die." So my grandfather, for 2 weeks, he never went to see the farm. Anyway, and my grandmother used to tell my father, "Go and learn things from your uncle," because her brothers were carpenters in the neighboring village. They call it Misharpura. So when he was he was number 2 in the family. First was the sister who was married, then him, and then a little brother. So the sister was her husband was also in this mechanical workshop work. So they moved to Bihar because all the industry was coming up there. So when it so happened my grandmother died, so my aunt called her brother, "Come here so that you can get some job." He was hardly 14, 15 years maybe, and they got him a job, and he wouldn't like to live with his sister, married sister, so he took his own place, and he was getting 5 rupees a month. So out of that, 2 rupees he will send to his father to take care of the brother, and 1 rupee for his food, and 1 rupee for the rent, and 1 rupee, imagine, for his studies. He realized that education is the most important thing. So first he learned Punjabi so that he can read the Guru Granth. Later on, he started learning English. And when he moved to Jamshedpur from another town where they were, we were small, we could see the English lady coming to tutor him in English. That's what my father was. And he wanted that all his children should be highly educated. And actually, he was the first one to build a private house in Jamshedpur. Why? Because there was an epidemic of diphtheria, and I must be about 1.5 or 2 years old, and children were dying, and I also got diphtheria. I also got paralysis of my legs from diphtheria. So the Tata Company ordered total disinfection of the whole city. It's a beautiful city, worth seeing, And I survived. So my father said, "These houses, not clean houses. I have to build a clean house for my daughter." So the first private house was built by my father, and that was for me. And I still boast and I tell my brothers and sisters, "This is my house and you people are living in my house." Well, that's the story of my father. And on the other side, my mother was the daughter of a very famous contractor. And when my grandmother will say, "Why don't you buy something for your daughters to marry?" "Oh, I can give them villages in dowry. I don't have it." That's another story. If you want me to continue, I can tell that side of the story. You want to hear?
Please go ahead.
Okay. He used to ride horses, and he was expert in building bridges. Actually, my great grandfather built the old bridge, Howrah Bridge in Calcutta. So this, my grandfather, he was also got into the same business, and because when his father died, all the money had to be distributed to the four brothers. So the eldest one was the one who was supposed to give. So he just gave, he kept most of the money to himself and gave him about 10,000 rupees at that time. So my grandfather said, "Oh, I am going to get this, the horses from the Khyber Pass. There something, what is the special horses?" So he was buying horses from there and selling here, and the horses were dying. So he lost all his business, but he has his horse. So then he started building these bridges, and when my mother was brought up like a boy, she did horse riding, she did everything, and she used to talk like a boy. She was so much so much vitality. Well, it so happened my grandfather had a horse who would take him to the place where he is going, and my grandfather will step down. She will come back home and go back to pick him up in the afternoon or evening, wherever. Everything was set. So one day, my grandfather's foot got stuck in the stirrup. So he got injured and he used to get a lot of pain. So he had a munshi, or the manager. He said, you start taking some drink, and he never used to drink. So you drink some wine and you will be okay. Slowly and slowly, he made him a drunkard, addicted, and the business started going down. So my uncle, I had two uncles, the elder one, very intelligent, he was also an engineer. He had even gone to England at that time and got training and came back. And he was losing so much, then they called his son. So he started taking the accounts of everything, and the business started improving. But that manager, because he was the one who was virtually looting my grandfather, he didn't want my uncle there. So he just put things into my grandfather's ears that, your son, he doesn't know anything, he is this, all bad things. So my grandfather told him, "You know nothing, you are stupid." So my uncle said, "Okay, here is your business, and I am going." So he left. Then came the time that manager was dying. He couldn't die. He said, "I want to talk to my grandpa." So my grandfather went. On his deathbed, he apologized, and he said, "This is what I was doing. I ruined you." Well, it was too late. But till the end, my uncle was so nice. He used to give half a glass or half a glass of wine every day to my grandfather until he died. So that's how later on my mother, she married my father. My father had already lost his wife and a little daughter he had, and but they made a wonderful couple. They did. They were a set to the society, and all the gurudwaras were made. And one more instance I tell you about my father. We called Majbi कहते ना Majbi. We think that it's a low class Sikhs, and nobody will eat with them, and they won't let them sit in the gurdwara and so forth. So they started their own gurdwara. So they asked my father to come to the gurdwara. So he went there and he sat with them and had the langar to prove that we are all Sikhs, we are the same. This was something very, very big in our community to happen there. So there's no more Majbi Singh and this, they're all the same.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience in the partition?
I think what I told you in the beginning, that's when the partition took place, and that's a glimpse of what I experienced. Though I was studying in a college where there were more Muslim girls and Muslim principal, and I lost all my friends. Those people, they went to Pakistan, and it was a very tormenting time. It was mentally, it was like torture. And the very fact that we had the Harmandir Sahib and the Sikhs all around, and we could help each other, and that city is made in such a way that you can, from rooftop you can help. But in the news we could hear how they were torturing the Sikhs when they were moving from Lahore to Amritsar. They were killing relentlessly, and Muslims from this side were also killed. There used to be there was one area outside the city's outskirts where the Muslims were there, big in big numbers, and it was like a war zone. So you could hear that, oh, those people have attacked the people here and the Muslims, but ultimately they were made to leave. They were also massacred. Hindus and Sikhs were also massacred. It was both sides killing each other. It was just relentless killing. Those times were very perilous, very painful, especially the day they announced the partition. That was horrifying.
Did you come to think that it was going to happen before? Did you have any sort of idea that something of this sort, of this nature, could have occurred?
No, we couldn't imagine. It was all of a sudden a bolt from the blue, and the news wouldn't travel that fast in those times as it does now. Mostly from the newspapers, and even we didn't even have a radio there at that time. because we were studying there, it was like bare minimum things. Yes, we had it in my house in Jamshedpur, but not in Amritsar, because we are all studying. So, but we could know from the local papers and from word of mouth. And they were very famous Sikhs who were helping for the administration. They was like, if you have any problem, you go and tell them, and then talk to the administration and see that it's taken care of. And this one instance, my number 2 brother, he was skinny. Suddenly, the police caught him that he has stolen a cycle. They just want to do something. They took him to the police station and they beat him. Came to know later on. In those few hours, we went straight to the gentleman that we knew, and my mother was at that time not there. So he had to intervene and go and get my brother out. So how many children were that time beaten up, the boys, young boys, we cannot say. It was a terrifying ordeal at that time. But if you have you ever been to Amritsar? You have been there, those small lanes. And people are close also. From the rooftops, we could talk and find out what's happening. Word of mouth from the Golden Temple, we could get the information, though we were not going out. We only went to the places where they were housed and helped them in whichever way to settle them. A lot of paperwork to be done. It was very painful.
Were all your brothers and sisters there with you in Amritsar?
Yes. But they were all very young. No, the little ones were not with us. Only me, my elder sister, and the youngest brother. The others were too small, so they stayed with Dad. And we had servants there to take care of them. And here, me and my elder sister and my brother was in Lahore. He was studying there. But once partition was made, he had to leave and he joined Khalsa College. He finished. And then he went to Banaras Hindu University. So,
was there constant contact with your father?
yes, always. But those times, we didn't have a telephone. My father had the telephone, so we could write letters. Now things are different.
So looking back on the partition, what have you come to understand since then?
Only bloodshed. And we were in the college, we were because I had taken physics, chemistry, and botany, so that I could enter med school. And there were some Muslim girls in my class, and we were great friends. And suddenly they were taken away. I don't know where they went. That was very painful to lose your friends. And later on we tried to find out After many years, somebody told me one of my friends was in Lahore teaching or practicing, but still I remember them. We had best of relations. Even as teenagers, we don't go into religious bigotry and those kind of things. I can still remember their voices. I can still remember. It's very painful. Lose your friends. In college, we are simple people. We are not into politics. And those girls they came from very good families. One was surgeon's daughter, Suraya. I remember the way she used to talk. In the college, we were okay, but things happened beyond our control. If anybody would say that division between India and Pakistan will be taken away, I'll be most happy. I'll be the first person to go to Lahore. We did visit Lahore afterwards, in I think 53 or something, maybe later on 55. The buses, they opened the border, and we med school people went to the med school over there, and they treated us well. Okay, but what passed before that, the partition itself, the most traumatic thing to happen to our country. And now the politics is totally different. Now the Muslims killing the Muslims.
Were there Muslims in Amritsar?
Yeah, there were pockets of Muslims. See, they never interspersed with the Hindus and Sikhs. They had their own pockets. So they eat differently. They take halal, and the women wear burqa. They don't come out too much. But we were free people in that sense, that we could. Only thing is, in Amritsar you have to cover your head with your chunni, right?
Did they ever feel threatened, or was there any sort of violence towards them?
Not before the partition.
But no, after the partition, and during the partition.
Sure, because they were killing the Sikhs and Hindus. So there were reprisals from this side. So they had to run away. So they had to vacate all the cities on the east. Amritsar. Then I know more about Amritsar, those cities. Punjab was vacated by the Muslims. No Muslim left. Even now, I doubt if there are any Muslims there at all. Hindus, yes. Sikhs lost much more, because most of our temples, especially in Lahore, Sikh history is actually more in western Punjab, call it Pakistan, than in India. So many gurdwaras we have there, important ones, historic places. I don't know why human beings kill each other. And everything is there. God has given equally distributed to everybody. I don't know when they will learn how to live together. I think it's getting worse. Now what is happening in the Arab world. in the name of religion. They are killing each other. And our Guru said that it's the same God for everybody. This is how you understand. I don't know whether I told you about my niece who married a Jewish guy. She's here. It's my younger sister's daughter. Brilliant girl. She did her master's here, and she was studying with her husband, and she was classmates. And she is suffering from a condition which is not curable, and it's called MS. So this guy wanted to marry her. So he came from a very good family of musicians. So his parents went to ask for my niece's hand from my sister and her husband, and they said, she is not, you should know that she has this disease, and the Oren is his name. He said, I'll take care of her. So they got married. They were not allowed to get married in the synagogue, and that Gurdwara, we have that big Gurdwara, the first one over in the city. They told the Ragis, anybody who goes there to marry this couple, you cannot enter the Gurdwara. So my sister had a big house with a big hall, and somehow, I don't know from where they got a jatha to perform the marriage ceremony. And those people, the Jews who came there, they all had their booklets on Sikhism. They were all read, they were all prepared, they all knew whom this boy is marrying. See the difference. And they have 2 sons, and from day one he respects the Guru Granth. He goes to the Gurdwara, जिस तरह सारे सर्व करते हैं, इस तरह उत्थे सेवा करते हैं, and he used to keep his दाढ़ी also, and only recently shaved, I don't know why. So लोग करते सी मेरी सिस्टर दी फैमिली दे विच एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली एवरी मंथ एक जने दे घर ना वो शाम नू पाठ करते सी ते ही विल डू द सेम ਇਹਦੇ ਘਰ ਵੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਬਾਬਾ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਦੇਰ ਰੱਖੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ ਮੇਰੀ ਨੀਸ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਐਵੇਂ ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਪੁੱਛ ਲਿਆ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਦੇਖ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਔਰਨ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਕੁਝ क्रिटिसाइज नहीं करता भी तू पाठ कर दी है कहते वो कहता है कि इट्स द सेम गॉड you can pray the way you want, I pray the way I want, it's the same God. Can you believe? And they are the most happy couple, and that girl is all the time saying Vaheguru, 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 and Oren also repeats the same way. उसने एक दूसरे ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਵੀ ਤੇ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਵੀ ਤੇ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਕਰਕੇ ਇੰਨਾ ਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਯਾਦ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਯਾਦ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਉਹ ਰੱਬ ਨੂੰ ਯਾਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਹਦੀ ਬਿਮਾਰੀ ਕੰਟਰੋਲ 'ਚ ਹੈਗੀ ਤੇ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਮੈਰਿਜਿਸ ਹੋਣ ਤੇ we don't bother, right? Any understanding of it when we know that God is one. ਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਜ਼ਰਾਈਲੀ ਜੂਇਸ਼ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਬੜੇ ਕੱਟੜ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਹੁਣ ਇਹਦੇ ਮਦਰ ਦੀ ਡੈਥ ਹੋ ਗਈ, ਸਟੈਪ ਫਾਦਰ ਹੈ ਔਰਨ ਦਾ। ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਕੀਰਤਨ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ, ਵਾਰੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਕਰਾਉਂਦੇ ਸੀ ਨਾ, ਐਵਰੀ ਮੰਥ ਵਾਰੀ ਆਉਂਦੀ, ਇਹਦੇ ਘਰ ਕੀਰਤਨ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ, ਉਹਦੀ ਮਦਰ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ ਉੱਥੇ।
Any message for our viewers, for the future generations?
I think I gave you a very good example of Oren, who is our son-in-law. If all people are like that, there will be no war. People will love each other, and they would know God belongs to everybody. It's the same God, and we should live in harmony. We should enjoy what God has given, the bounties that God has given, the scientific advancements that human mind is doing. It's the time to enjoy. It's not the time to destroy. And this should be instilled into the minds of children. More people should meet different religious people from different religions, and just to know them, but live like a family. I can't understand hate. I don't know what they get from hate. I know what you get from love, but not from hate. For me, I love everybody. So the message our Gurujis gave us, message of love. And if we understand our Gurujis, their diktat, there should be no fights in the Gurudwaras or with people. It's a pity we human beings haven't yet grown as human beings. That's how I feel. Centuries have passed, but we are not growing intellectually. It's so simple. If I love you, you will respond with love. If I hate you, you will respond with hate. And we are knowing very well that we are here just guests on this earth, and one day we will go. I always, when I come to my house, say, God, you give me a nice place to live. And then one day God is going to say, okay, now you vacated. It's going to happen to everybody. I never feel that I'm permanent here. That's me. For me, every minute that I live, I want to live in peace with everybody, love everybody. And Guruji has given us the Gurudwara. I go there and I always say, this is my father's place. Here I have every right. I go there, I take the langar. If I want to bring some langar home, I take it. If anybody says, this is my father's kitchen, I have every right. No, you don't even miss your own, the father that gave birth to mother that gave birth to you. Because we have Guruji. Our father is there. We ask anything from him. I go there, I'm so happy. I feel I'm in my family. Why people fight, I can't understand. Why people hate each other, I can't understand. And even if I go there and I'm late or anything, never mind. I came to my father's house. Now I'll have my langar and go home. I love my people because those whom I meet there, there's something is trickling into their heads from the Gurbani. The school is there, they're trying to teach the children. And that's a very important thing. The schooling in the Gurdwaras, teaching the Punjabi is very important. Very important. So that we can read our whatever the Gurus have said and carve our lives according to those principles. They just teach us love everybody, don't hate anybody. That is the basic thought. Then if you don't hate anybody, you are at ease, you are happy, everybody is happy around you, right?
Pandit ji, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to me.